Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The nation is awaiting additional details from the Health Ministry as the number of COVID-19 cases in Jamaica has increased to 8. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is scheduled to have a press conference this afternoon. 6 new cases have been reported. 2 were transmitted locally. One local case is a 58-year-old man who is the father of patient 0. He was discovered ill at home on March 11. The second local case is a 34-year-old woman who was in close contact with the patient. A statement from the Health Ministry says the other cases include 2 males aged 63 and 67 who came into the island on March 7 from Trinidad, having traveled from Malaysia by way of Dubai and London. A 36-year-old man who traveled from Manchester, England, was also taken to hospital from his hotel via ambulance. The other case involves a 31-year-old man who is a Jamaican ship worker based overseas. Residents in Clarendon are not taking any chances with COVID-19. Dozens of people spent hours at a chemical factory to buy sanitizers, and we have details in this report.
Residents in Mapen, Clarendon descended on this chemical outlet on the outskirts of a parish capital. They were eager to secure sanitary products such as liquid soaps and bleach. While some bought barrel loads, others just needed a bottle or 2. But the aim was the same, to sanitize their surroundings and help ward off COVID-19.
Them say you have to use hand sanitizer to get away the germs. Yes, so we have to use it from them so that try to get away the germs from the disease that are going around.
Come and prepare some hand sanitizer, gloves, and so forth for the car wash. Because you know it is very important to do business, to have a sanitizer and have a place properly sanitized.
The rush caused a strain on the staff at the facility. Annoyed by the delay, some customers left.
Look around, the vehicle stay 3 days straight in the place, rampack. Oh, this can win him. Can a roll or whatever, it's a mash it on the boss.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Effective Monday, all external visits to correctional facilities in Jamaica will be suspended for 2 weeks. The Department of Correctional Services says during the period, the public will not be allowed to take food or care packages to correctional centers. In a media statement, the DCS said although probation aftercare officers are still operational, walk-in visits to these locations will be suspended. At the end of the 2 weeks, there will be a review. Commissioner of Corrections Gary Rose says the decision to suspend visits was made in consultation with health officials, external stakeholders, and it follows the government's decision to halt all public gatherings. More than 4,000 inmates are at correctional facilities island-wide. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency says swift action must now be taken by the region to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Currently, there are 26 confirmed cases of the virus within the Caribbean, led by Jamaica with 8 and Dominican Republic with 5. Speaking with TVJ News this morning, head of SEDIMA, Ronald Jackson, says there needs to be significant changes in how we operate as a region.
The approach now for us in the Caribbean must be to move swiftly towards containment, to slow transmission, and to see how best we can reduce the burden to the health sector.
Mr. Jackson says SEDIMA has not been called on to provide any support to the region, but they are getting themselves ready for the eventuality.
The conversation we've been having is on, first and foremost, rapid medical teams, whether they will be needed, and if so, how do we ensure that they are safely equipped to function in the space. We had an initial meeting with the community of donors just to sensitize them to the fact that the alert level was raised to moderate and then to high, and to share with them the known knowns and the known unknowns in terms of trying to get a better understanding of needs and gaps. And we have been doing a number of short scenario desktop exercises, doing what-ifs with member states, with regional organizations to try and get a handle on what it may mean, both for the country but also for the regional response if necessary.
Butchers and all meat establishments are being reminded to prepare meat properly in accordance with regulations from the Public Health Department. In light of the coronavirus, which originated in a meat market in China, Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, said butchers must abide by the law.
It brings to our attention even more now how we dispose of the waste from animals, what contamination that can have to our public space, to our waterway, to our environment. We don't know.
He says the regulations are being put in place to protect consumers.
Oftentimes, we are told that animals are slaughtered in a way in which it is not fitting, and these animals sometimes are not fit for human consumption. We have read on a number of occasions where animals were stolen, animals that were undergoing medication, animals that were pregnant, and it ended up in our plates.
And Mayor Davis was speaking at a sensitization session for butchers in Montego Bay. J. Ray and Nephew Limited has reopened its Spanish Town facility but says it's taking no chances. The company is now has acquired a temperature check machine which they are using to check everyone entering the facility.
We've upped the ante. We've provided, additional equipment, infrared thermometers, that sort of a thing, to enable our health team to make the necessary checks, as well as, of course, ensuring that a really tighter regimen is in place with respect to cleaning and making sure that everything is ready, of course, spick and span.
The management closed the plant on Wednesday after discovering that an employee had come in contact with Jamaica's first confirmed COVID-19 case. The plant has been opened following extensive cleaning at the facility. And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more stories right after these messages. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The Tax Administration Jamaica has extended the deadline for income tax returns to be filed this year.
A decision has been taken to extend the income tax filing deadline to Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. This means that companies, partnerships, self-employed persons, and employed persons with other sources of income will now have until March 25th, 2020 to file their income tax returns for the 2019 filing period and estimated returns for 2020.
All hype and no substance. That's how the opposition spokesman on finance, Mark Golding, views the fiscal policies outlined by the finance minister in his opening budget presentation. Mr. Golding yesterday ripped into some of the proposals in his contribution to the budget debate.
Mr. Speaker, we support the announced GCT reduction of the standard rate to 15% from 16.5. But we think the government should have gone further for the people. That's right. Further for the people. What we see is the government giving away $3 billion to the owners of the financial sector by cutting the asset tax in half. That $3 billion tax break will flow right to the bottom line of the owners of financial institutions who are already making very healthy profits. Yes. But I have to ask the question, Mr. Speaker, what about the ordinary customers of the banks who have been enduring high levels of fees and charges with no protection from this government? Mr. Speaker, Fitz-Jackson brought legislation to this House to protect bank customers from excessive fees and charges, but the government adamantly blocked it. The government has left the country's savers exposed. You've left the country's savers exposed. And now you're giving the banks a $3 billion tax break without even ensuring that something is done to protect savers from excessive fees and charges that numb out the money in their bank accounts.
Mr. Golding went further.
Last year, when the government chose to give a big tax break in the last budget to real estate developers, at that time, I questioned the fairness of giving so much of the tax giveaway, that $14 billion, giving so much of it to sellers of real estate, when ordinary Jamaicans were bearing over $30 billion that was added to indirect taxes in 2016 and 2017. This plea fell on deaf ears and we were ignored. So far, that tax break has benefited the sales of units in projects which had already begun before the tax break was even given. And it has therefore ended up as a big windfall for property developers of projects that had already started before that tax incentive was given. We continue to question the fairness and effectiveness of the overall tax policy of the government. The fact is that other than mining, construction has been the worst performing sector in this fiscal year that we're in now.
Back to COVID-related news. Despite assurances from the Health Ministry about the availability of protective gear and hand sanitizers for the healthcare workers, the Jamaica Medical Doctors and Association, JMDA, still wants strong action to be taken against persons who steal the gear. And we have details in this report.
Stakeholders have been concerned about the availability of protective gear. In responding to the parliamentary opposition in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said there were enough gear in stock. He said an assessment would be done to see which workers are without. While speaking on Beyond the Headlines on Thursday, President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Elon Thompson, said workers are being told the items have been provided by the ministry, but staff members are not seeing them in health facilities.
I've heard of hospitals that send to stores for hand sanitizers. It's out of stock. You go to work and all the rooms in the clinics are fitted with hand sanitizers. And all of a sudden when the doctors come in, they have gone missing.
What goes missing?
The hand sanitizers from the room.
Yeah, deliberately.
It's what? It's in the portable bottles or it's in the canisters affixed to the walls?
The canisters, because the canisters can't be moved off the wall.
Right.
What happened to the canisters is that they're empty or not working.
Oh,
so that's the problem. So it's the portable hand sanitizers now that can be moved.
Dr. Thompson also wants legal action to be taken against persons found stealing critical items.
It is a situation where there are unscrupulous persons who are taking these items in a time like this when we're having a national, quote-unquote, crisis, right? We need to find these persons and make sure that the law deals with them.
In the meantime, President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Carmen Johnson, added that the availability of water has also been a problem in health facilities.
Wards where at night you have no water to use, no running water, and to them, well, we can wait out NWC and we see what we put in place, that it takes us a month or 2 months. That's the reality. We have management who doesn't really understand healthcare.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
In news overseas, Cayman has recorded its first case of the coronavirus. Premier Alden McLaughlin announced yesterday at a media briefing that the patient is a 68-year-old man from Italy. He was transferred from a cruise ship for a critical cardiac issue. It's reported that he was one of 2 sick passengers taken off the Caribbean Princess on Monday. The ship did not dock in Cayman, nor were there any passengers allowed off. The Italian man was taken directly to isolation, while the second ill passenger was airlifted to Florida. The man is doing well and is still in isolation in hospital. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez declared a state of emergency for a period of 15 days in an attempt to stop the spread of coronavirus. In a televised address on Friday, Sanchez announced the measure to protect the country's most vulnerable. He noted that all available resources will be used to tackle the extraordinary crisis. The number of deaths in Spain increased by some 50% in a day to reach 120. Infections jumped to 4,200. Mr. Sanchez said the figure could end up at or top 10,000 by next week. And in sports, senior Jamaican track and field athletes are being advised to refrain from competing in countries affected by the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus. This position was taken following telephone discussions on Thursday between Sports Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange and President of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, Dr. Warren Blake. On Wednesday, the Sports Minister told TVJ Sports about plans for a meeting involving her ministry and the heads of some national sporting associations. She has consulted some presidents via telephone and will speak with others in due course. The ministry has also dispatched letters to all sporting associations.
The Prime Minister did indicate that we are restricting travel, or at least we're recommending, in speaking to the various federations, about the impact of traveling overseas and running the risk of picking up the virus. So that's also a consideration.
Several national representatives are scheduled to compete in the Diamond League Series, which has a total of 14 meets starting on April 17 in Qatar. However, the Jamaican government has imposed travel restrictions on 5 countries, including China, Italy and France, which are all slated to host Diamond League meets. The second meet in the series is set for May 9 at a venue to be decided in China, while the Shanghai Diamond League, the third leg of the series, is slated for May 16, also in China. The Rome Diamond League in Italy is set for May 28, while France is listed to stage the Diamond League in Paris on June 13. Vice Chairman of the Premier League Clubs Association, Carvel Stewart, says the Red Stripe Premier League will be suspended for the next 2 match days, in accordance with the government's restriction on permits for public gatherings. Stewart, however, says they are yet to decide the way forward after the proposed 15 days. The announcement was made at the Jamaica Football Federation head office on Thursday morning. And all elite football in England has been suspended until at least the 3rd of April as a result of the spread of the coronavirus. All Premier League games, EPL fixtures and matches in the FA Women's Super League and the Women's Championship have also been postponed. The Premier League said action would resume on April 4, subject to medical advice and conditions at the time. The Football Association said England's games against Italy on the 27th of March and Denmark 4 days later are all off. And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.